Changing minds one thought at a time.
Greetings, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is Jessica. Welcome to our show today. Thank you, everyone who's called in. We are so excited about this call. This is just a topic that I am super passionate about. It is one that I really hold near and dear to my heart. The title of our show tonight is, Do You Let Your Past Refine You or Define You? Let Go of Past Mistakes. Now, I'm going to be completely upfront and honest with everyone tonight. I'm going to admit, I'm going to come clean. I have made some pretty big mistakes in my past. I'm going to own up to it. I'm going to come up front with it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to be honest with everyone. I have certainly made some errors, and my biggest error was for a very long time, I punished myself over and over and over and over and over for those mistakes until one day I woke up and said, you know what, it is time that I stop. This happened a long time ago. I am going to forgive myself, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to let my past refine me. I am no longer letting it define me. So thank you so much for being part of this call, for everyone who called in, who is listening, either having download our podcast, streaming it via YouTube or blog, chat, radio, iTunes, Podomatic. Thank you again for being part of this call. Aikyna, I know this is also a topic that is super, super important to you. Why did you want to do this call tonight for our callers?
I, too, have been I had let my past define me as well, and I knew how powerful that was in someone's development as it was with mine. And I believe that if we could share some tips on how we let go, that it would help others. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, you know, one of the things that I know we say over and over and over on this show is that if you would like to see a change in your life, you first must make a change within yourself. You know, if you don't change the inside, you're not going to see a change on the outside. Now, I think it's safe to say that all of us at some point or another have just messed up. Sometimes we might have been maybe brought up in a situation. I know a lot of people, unfortunately today, like too many children are suffering abuse or neglect. And a lot of times, you know, we're just living in a society or a world that's scarred. And, you know, we may have been thwarted into the situation. We might say, oh, my goodness, this wasn't even me. This wasn't, you know, my fault. Something happened to me. Something bad happened to me. You know, people get into car accidents. Someone you love might have, you know, unfortunately passed in a time in your life when that was very difficult for you, maybe prematurely. You know, you lost something. You lost maybe your house in a fire. You lost one of your assets, your car, your home, your possessions. And you say, this wasn't my fault. Something bad just happened to me. And you walk around really feeling victimized. Or maybe you are punishing yourself. This was my case. I was punishing myself for having just really, you know, made mistakes. I was young and I was living on my own and I didn't know what I was doing and I made some mistakes and I carried that into my life later. You know, you can let go. And that's what I think this is really going to be a show about tonight. It's going to be a show about purging in ourselves. Now, I live in a small New York City apartment, and, you know, one of the issues with New York City apartments is there's really not a lot of room. You know, we don't have a lot of storage. We don't have a lot of space. I've been living in the same place for 6 years. Every couple months or so, I look around and I notice that, oh, my goodness, I have collected all this stuff in my apartment. I can't move. I don't know what to do. I'm looking at my, you know, house right now, and I'm like, I have my exercise ball on my floor and my yoga mat, and there's nowhere to put them, and I have everything's all spread out, and I'm like, I need to just get rid of stuff. And I'll just make this huge purge. You know, the last purge was, I think, 3 trips to Goodwill because that's put everything in the back of my car and took everything to Goodwill, and I felt so much better. And today we're going to talk about what do you need to purge in your life, in your emotions, what do you need to let go to move on and start creating the life you want to live. So, Aikyna, do you want to get us a little, why don't you kind of open us and maybe tell us a little bit about what you would recommend if someone is calling in tonight and just saying, oh, my goodness, this is me, I'm beating myself up, what's the first step you think they should take?
Well, the first step would be acknowledging the problem. Why are you beating yourself up? What is it that started it? You can't fix it until you find where the root is. So go through and really reflect on what has been holding you back. Usually there's one thing that's a constant in whatever situation it is. Prime example, when mine was advancement. I would seem to sabotage my advancement. I would get to a certain point, and then I would just be stagnant. I couldn't go to the next level. I just couldn't make it past this one particular level. I'd get to one point, but I could never go any further. And I really had to look at what it was that was keeping me in this one particular spot where I couldn't go any further. Come to find out, I was holding myself back because I was like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe there's somebody else to be better. Maybe I'm not going to do a good job. So I kept sabotaging myself from getting to the next level. So learning what it is, that one root problem, is the first step.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's an exercise, and I do this exercise on a fairly regular basis because you know what? We're never going to get to the point where we're done, right? Personal development is an ongoing process, and I am so excited to share my journey on my personal development with everyone who calls into these calls and everyone who is with us. I do this exercise all the time because things come up before me, and I want to just really urge everyone to do it tonight. Stand before the mirror and just say, I forgive myself. And I want you to just say it as many times as it takes, over and over and over. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself, until you actually forgive yourself. Until you love the person you see in the mirror, I want you to say it over and over and over, I forgive myself. Because when you forgive yourself, when you acknowledge the person you are who are looking in the mirror that you see is beautiful and capable of loving and deserving, you come from a place of power to create and to change. Have you ever done any exercises like that, Aikyna?
Yes. I used to do those when I was in my group, and it was really beneficial because it let me know how to release. It's amazing how much you are holding in. I think that
yes, absolutely.
It's amazing once you just say, I forgive myself, the feeling of release that you have. You start peeling away at the layers, and you feel those layers falling off, and you feel the release, and it's just so much emotion there. Some people start crying, some people start screaming, some people start jumping, leaping, because they've never been that free before in their lives. It's amazing how powerful those words are. I forgive myself. I love that.
Absolutely. Yes. And, there's something that you said that I really, really liked. And what you said, and this holds true for me, is there's something that we're all holding on to. Now, some of us have made mistakes, and I will share with you a mistake that I made in my life. One of the ways that I was sabotaging myself is I was extremely disorganized. I was disorganized as a young child, and I maintained that disorganization through college and through my younger adulthood. And when I wound up, I was very fortunate when I graduated college. Even though the economic times were very difficult, I wound up getting a job right away, and a very good job, and I very quickly was advancing in ranks in my company, and I was given a lot of responsibilities. And I had the skills. I had these skills to be able to, as far as my professional skills were, concerned, to be able to do the job, but my organization skills were not caught up with my professional skills. And the result was I couldn't handle the responsibility. And since I was not able to handle the responsibility, they wound up taking it away from me. And that's something that I beat myself up with for a really long time. And I just kept punishing myself every day. And I want to tell you something. You may not be thinking that you're actively punishing yourself every day, but every day you wake up believing you're still the person who made those mistakes, you continue to punish yourself, because you cannot change if you don't accept the fact that, yes, the person you are today is a product of every decision that you've made. You need to accept that. But you need to accept that and forgive yourself and understand that that puts you in a position of power. Because if you created who you are today, then you can create anything that you want to be. See, the thing is that, a lot of people will say, if I'm accepting that this is who I am, you want to blame it on somebody else. I could say, it was my boss's fault, but it wasn't my boss's fault. It was my fault. And when I owned up to it and I said, this is what I created, I was able to say, I want something different. I can create something different, because if I created this, I can create anything. And I wound up taking the steps I needed to, and I wound up getting more organized, and then I was able to create a different story. And that kind of brings me to my second point, is creating a different story. I want everyone to realize just one thing today. If you take nothing else from this call, there's one thing I want you to really, really understand. So, if you are listening in tonight and you're not, if you are, streaming this later and you're driving or exercising, don't turn off the treadmill, don't crash your car. But if you're listening in tonight, I want you to get a pen and a paper, and I want you to write this down. Someone else's idea of whom I am or what I can do does not have to be my reality. And I'm going to say that again. Someone else's idea of who I am or what I can do does not have to be my reality. Someone else's thoughts of what I'm capable of does not have to define me. You have to come from a place of power and realize and understand that you can do anything that you want to do. And the first step is forgiving yourself. The first step is to stop blaming your past and stop blaming your present on your past. Stop blaming it on somebody else. Stop saying, it was my mother's fault. It was my father's fault. They said mean things to me. It was the kids from when I was in high school because they mocked me. That may have happened, and you cannot control that. You cannot go back. You cannot change what happened to you, but you can decide today that you're going to change and you're going to control how you react to the situation. Things happen all the time to us. And, you see these examples of these amazing, inspirational, and powerful men and women who might have had something tragic happen to them. Maybe they lost a limb. Maybe they got into a car accident and they were put in a wheelchair. But they decided that they were going to take control of their life and still create a good future. They were going to still become an inspiration. They were going to still decide, I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on what happened. I'm going to take my life and I'm going to move on. I'm going to let my past refine me, not define me. When you let your past refine you, you don't define yourself by your past failures, but you learn from your mistakes. I learned that, my disorganization was costing me a lot. It cost me relationships. It cost me friends. It cost me chaos in my life. It cost me stress. It cost me issues with my health. It cost me a position in my job. But the day that I said, it wasn't all my friends and family, and it wasn't, that my apartment's too small, and it's not that my, computer, my cell phone doesn't work all the time. It's not that I just lose things. It's that I need to get organized. And when I accepted that responsibility, I got organized, things changed. I came from a place of power. I came from a place where I could say, you know what, I can change this. I'm not going to be defined. I had a label on myself. I said, I'm disorganized. And then I walked around and I projected that, and that was in everything that I did. And it affected everything I did. It affected every relationship because I sabotaged myself. And Aikyna, you said earlier, we sabotage ourselves when we put labels on ourselves because of past mistakes or because someone else told us that's what we were, and we sabotage ourselves. I sabotaged, friendships because I missed appointments. I wound up going late for different things. I wound up just cluttering my house up, and I couldn't sleep because I was stressed out, because I couldn't even walk to my bed at night because there was stuff in the way. When I finally cleared all that out, when I finally decided that I wasn't going to consider myself as organized, I was going to learn how to be organized, you know what? All of it changed. Maybe your issue wasn't that you're disorganized. Maybe you're calling in today and you see yourself as someone who's not healthy, and you're living with that stigma. Maybe you can't get out of bed in the morning when you know you should be exercising because you know what, you feel like you're unhealthy. You have to find it. You've internalized, I'm unhealthy. And you know what, maybe you feel that way because your mother as a child told you were fat. And maybe you grew up thinking that's who you were or what you were, and your entire life you looked at your own body, at your own lifestyle with that perception. Maybe when you go to a restaurant, you order the unhealthy thing off the menu because you think of yourself as the fat girl. Instead of, you realizing that you are beautiful and that you were created in the image of God and He loves you, instead of seeing yourself the way He sees you, you see yourself with this perception that someone else told you were, or maybe something that happened to you made you think you were, but you're not. That's not who you are. And when you stop defining yourself by these labels and you start looking at yourself as the beautiful human being you are, you realize you're capable of creating anything. So be that person. Don't look at yourself as that person who's unhealthy. Don't look at yourself as that person who maybe is not capable of being loved. But know that you stand in power, being able to create and do anything you want. Forgive yourself. I don't know what it is that you've done. I don't know what it is, what mistake you've made, or what anyone else has told you, or what hurtful thing that someone said to you, whether it was an ex-boyfriend or, one of your lovers or one of your ex-girlfriends for the men listening into this call, or your mother or your father or your grandmother, or, a friend you had as a small child, or a friend as an adult who hurt you. Stand here saying, I forgive them, but I also forgive me. And I can't go back. I can't change what happened. But today, I decide to change how I react. Today, I'm going to move on.
So I do believe we're saying that step 2 is forgiving yourself. So once we realize what the root is, then we have to forgive ourselves. So I think that step 3 would be let yourself heal. Begin the healing process. So now that you're forgiving yourself, you know that knowing is only half the battle. You then have to clean it up. You have to heal from it so that you can move on. And the healing process, it may not be an easy process, but it's a necessary process. You deserve to be whole. And holding all that baggage, you can't be whole. You have to start letting go of the bags one by one until you are free. And it's going to take some time, and it may not be pretty all the time, but you got to let yourself experience, because it's one thing we know as educators, if you're not part of the experience, you don't absorb the experience. So you have to absorb it in order to truly heal. And, all these quick fixes, like people go and get these surgeries and they take all these weight loss shots and things of that nature, that's not healing. That's a quick fix. That's not absorbing the experience. But when you're working out every day and you're running and then you're in a support group, that's absorbing the experience. So you get the full healing. What do you think about that, Jessica?
I think you're just absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. A lot of times people will come to a place where they say, okay, you know what, I recognize the problem, and then they say, okay, I want to forgive myself. But like you said, they're looking for a quick and easy external solution. And I want to say this kind of boldly and in love. If you're doing something like that, chances are you haven't really forgiven yourself. You haven't actually changed anything inside. And, we said in the beginning of the call, and I want to reiterate it now, if you want a change in your life, you have to first make a change inside of you. It's like inside out. You have to first change the inside, and then the outside starts to change. If you look in the mirror and you see a person who you don't love, going to the store and spending $10,000 on clothes you can't afford because they think you make you look beautiful, and I've been there and I've done that. It doesn't work. I can tell you something, it doesn't work. Because there were nights that I looked at myself in the mirror wearing Prada, wearing Gucci shoes, and I still didn't like the person that I see. Nothing changed, except for the fact that I had debt on my credit card I couldn't afford. Nothing changed. But now I can stand in front of my mirror in a T-shirt and shorts from Target and look in the mirror, and I see a person that I love. And the reason is because the change came from the inside. If you feel like you need to get plastic surgery and it's for cosmetic and not for health reasons, that isn't going to work. Those things only work for so long. It's like painting. It goes away. It doesn't work. You can't cover this kind of thing up. Like you said, Aikyna, a healing process, it takes time. If you, and I just acknowledge everyone who's listening to this podcast or calling in tonight. And, this is the first step. You're here. You're doing it. Congratulations. Congratulations to everyone who's made it this far into the call, who's saying, yes, I want to change. Please help me. You're already doing what you need to do. And it's a process. And you know what? You need to wake up every morning and make that decision again. Because you know what? If this is something that has been being created for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, if this is something you've internalized for a very long time, when you may be inspired tonight, and you may get off this call and you may be like, I'm so excited, and you may stand in front of that mirror tonight and say, I forgive myself, but tomorrow morning you need to wake it up and you need to say it again. But you know what? You need to decide it again. And it's not easy. I'm not going to promise you it's going to be easy. And I wish that everybody who was listening in tonight, who makes a decision tonight, is going to stick it through to the end, but it's probably not going to be the case. You need to go through the process. But it's a process of change that comes from the inside. Don't go out and buy new clothes. Don't think that if you buy a fancy car, don't think, I thought if I moved into a bigger apartment that I would get more organized. Well, I didn't get more organized. I just collected more stuff. And it was still disorganized. Making an external change is not going to work. You need to change the inside of you. You need to really look in the mirror. You need to come from a place of love. You need to come from a place of healing. And, everyone has a different approach to that. For me, meditation is very important. I've been practicing meditation since the age of 12. I've been really studying it consciously probably since around the age of 14. And to me, meditation's really very, very crucial. And, a big part of that for me, and, I'm out of respect for everyone's religion, I am a Christian. A lot of that for me comes from prayer. And I just really try to meditate and focus on God's love for me. And that's something that I personally find can really change me. But get a book from an author that you love and that inspires you. We all have our kind of heroes and sheroes and kind of celebrity mentors or people that inspire us. Look at someone whose life you want to emulate and read what they have to say, read how they got there. If that's reading the Bible for you, then read that. If that's reading, another sacred text for you, then read that. but actively try to find a way to really spend time with something that resonates for you. And, do these types of exercises. There's a lot of exercises. And, I think we're going to actually link to some of them on our website. Changing Minds Online is our website. That's changingmindsonline.com. I'm going to actually put some links up probably tomorrow morning that you guys can take a look at with some exercises I've done or that people I know have done that are really these cleansing exercises that will help you come to a place of forgiveness, and do them on a regular basis. Write yourself a letter. Write yourself a love letter. I write myself love letters all the time. I even mail them to myself. And sometimes I even will give them to a friend, and I'll tell a friend, hey, you know what? Can you mail this to me in a month from now? Because I might know that I'm going to be going through a really hard time in a month. I might know that, my life is going to get really challenging in a month, and I'm going to need that inspiration. And then I'll open up this letter, and it'll be this letter that just says you're wonderful, you're beautiful, and you can do anything. And then I believe it. We've had our calls about our inspiration boards and our creation boards and the ideas of affirmations, and all those things are just so important, so crucial. But take time every day for personal development and growth. I know I've committed to 2 hours a day of personal development, while I'm doing my running. I'm training for the marathon, so I've been getting up early and doing running. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to audiobooks. I have a waterproof phone. I bring it in the shower with me, and I listen to podcasts, even as I'm getting ready for work. And I know, Aikyna, you're big on personal development as well, right?
Yes, definitely. I believe that everyone can meet their potential, and we just have to go out and go get it. So that's definitely the reason why we do these calls, because we want to give you tips of how we made it, and we want to definitely help you as well. So, yes, definitely a big supporter of personal development. Get as far as you can go and stay in your purpose, or find your purpose, however you fit into this realm right now. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. This one, again, just really thank everyone and acknowledge everyone who's called in today. We love you. We love hearing from you guys. I know sometimes we'll get messages on Facebook to people who listen to our calls, and people have called me and just told me that they've been inspired by what we have to say. And, thank you so much for everyone who calls in. And, it's my prayer for you guys that as we leave tonight, I hope that this message really reaches you. Stand in front of that mirror tonight and just say, I forgive myself. And I just hope that, there's someone here who believes it for maybe the first time or believes it again tonight after this call. You are loving. You are beautiful. You are made, like I said, you are made in the image of God. He loves you, and I hope that you can see it. As we end this call now, I just want to, again, just if you, share this with your friends, share this with your family, send a letter of forgiveness, send a text message, call someone who's hurt you in the past, tell them that you forgive them, and see what a difference that makes for you. But, I think that with that, we probably have to wrap this call tonight. Aikyna, is there anything else you wanted to add before we have to close?
Yes, most definitely. I want all the callers to remember our steps. Number 1 was to acknowledge the problem. Number 2 was to forgive yourself. And number 3, to then allow yourself to heal. Thank you so much, everyone, for calling. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to listen to this call again or share this with your friends or family or anyone you love, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. We're on Podomatic. We're on Blog Chat Radio. And I know there's a couple other places we added ourselves. Right, Aikyna? Wasn't there 1 or 2 other sites we were able to get on this week?
Yes, we are on Twitter at Change Mind Online. We're also on Pinterest, and we're also on Instagram. So please follow us there as well.
Yeah, perfect. And you can we are intentionally on every social media site, and We put this on as many different places we can to make sure it's really easy for everyone to access. So, please share, please listen in, and send us feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you again. God bless you. Have a great night. We love you, and we're going to end this call now. Good night, guys.
Good night.